Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Art of Save Scumming. You're looking at Skaven Blight, and yes, we're talking about Clan Skryre. You guys have asked for more Skaven content, so that's what we're going to do today. And the new series that I want to hint at is potential pitfalls in your campaign. What kind of mistakes are there in the early campaign? So before turn 50-ish, where can you go wrong that can spiral your campaign and give you a harder time than you otherwise would have? And Clan Skryre is, in my opinion, one of those factions that is super strong, that if you don't get a handle on things rather quickly, then you can end up just getting dogpiled on. It was, in my opinion, a little bit worse in Warhammer 2 than it isn't currently in Warhammer 3, but you still have a lot to deal with. For instance, you've got Bretonnians right here. You start out right here next to Sartosa. You've got dwarves right here. You've got all of Avelorn. You got more, depending on how the campaign progresses, you've either got greenskins or more Bretonnia. You've got ogres over here, greenskins, and more dwarves. Plus you're bordering the Empire right here. So what kind of things can go wrong early on as far as mistakes are concerned and things that you should avoid? If you guys would like, I can also do an early campaign guide for Clan Skryre. I think there's a couple really awesome methods to set yourself up really powerfully early on that don't require a whole bunch of cheese. And I'm not a big fan of pushing Skaven Blight all the way up to like tier 4 in the early campaign. I just build that naturally. So the first thing that you can do that is a mistake is not take this first province right here. So you start with Skaven Blight, and if you don't get on this province rather rapidly, then Morgur will make it impossible for you to take over this territory. So taking all three of these settlements very early on is key to making sure that you've got economic resources. And this is going to be one of, if not the first, then one of the first that reaches tier 5 on your buildings. So these two provinces right here are exceptionally important. Of course, Skaven Blight is as well, but it is really important to take this one quickly because you're going to have problems with Morgur. Now, once you've taken this, in my opinion, a mistake would be to take any of these coastal regions. So this coastal region, or these regions over here. Even though this isn't a coastal region, it still borders the sea. So in my opinion, any of those are a mistake to take. So if you do find yourself at war with Bretonnia early on in the campaign, because that can happen if you don't manage your alliances properly, you should raise this settlement. You should not occupy the settlement until you are willing to go to war with the High Elves. So once you've captured this, you've got line of sight anything across the sea here, and that is a bad thing if you're in the early campaign. You do not want the High Elves coming over here. So you should avoid taking this settlement in the early campaign at all costs. Similarly, you will find yourself kind of shoehorned into taking this from Sartosa, but it is also a really bad idea to take Sartosa itself. You should raise this or let Morgur raise this. Now you can put undercities here, here, and here, but you want to make sure that you build the masking building. So it would be this building here, because it eliminates your line of sight. You do not want to discover all of these factions over here. So for instance, I don't have Sartosa. It's turn 55, and I don't know those Bretonnians across the way. So keeping yourself from being enticed to take Sartosa avoids meeting Raponce, the Knights of Origo, if they're active there, and Scarbrand over here. So keeping this unoccupied by at least yourself is an important first step. So don't make the mistake of taking Sartosa. The next thing that I think would be a mistake is to not forge an alliance or some kind of friendly relationship. And in this campaign, I went with a non-aggression pact with the ogres. There's really no reason in the early campaign to mess with the ogres, because then you're going to end up with line of sight issues on some of these factions earlier than you really want to. So get a non-aggression pact with the ogres so that you can go, and the progression looks something like this. Take this province, take this province, blow this up, or put an undercity there and let Morgur blow it up. Then take on the dwarves here. And here we have an example of something that you should not do. You should not expand into the Empire. And the reason that is at this juncture, you're going to want to ultimately form an alliance with the vampire counts. But you cannot form an alliance with the vampire counts until they are at war with at least the Empire and preferably the dwarves. So here, I am at war with the Empire because I was dragged into war with the Empire, which makes me have to expand into the Empire prematurely when I'm not really ready to take care of that. You can choose to go into the Empire after you take care of Avelorn, which is the next progression that you should be considering. You have to basically, you come up here and you're going to be more than most likely declared war on by Durthu because he's going to hold some of this territory. You need to take out this territory so that he can't just underway into your territory. Or, excuse me, they call it world roots for the wood elves. But you should not keep this territory. You should sell all of this territory because this is going to ultimately lead you to war with Nuln and war with Karl Franz. So it's better if you get rid of this territory, off it to the ogres or somebody like that, or even off it to Nuln, so that you can divest yourself from it and not have to defend this front over here. Remember that none of the Empire factions or the vampires, if you end up at war with the vampires over siding with Nuln, none of those factions have the ability to underway or world route into your territory. The dwarves can, so you should also take this territory and probably sell it to one of those factions to manage the alliance. But early on, these territories are something that you probably shouldn't be holding on to because, count them, you'll have a front here that you have to defend. You'll have a front here that you have to defend. You'll have a front here that you have to defend. You'll have a front here that you have to defend. And you have another front here that you have to defend. So if you just divested yourself of all this territory, and in order for the humans or the vampires to get to your stuff, they have to come through Fort Sol, which isn't really a great defensive location. I'd say that your defensive beachhead should be Izor over here because you can get Warp Bomb and the like. But you are playing as Clan Skryre, so conceivably holding Fort Sol with just a level 1 or even like a level 3 settlement could give you the opportunity to use the nukes. And sometimes, if you do it well enough, more than once. And that would really hamstring any army that's coming down through here versus having to hold this territory, spend food on it, and all that sort of stuff. So avoid holding on to this territory. But you need to take it from Durthu and get it out of his hands, because then you're going to have to go into Avelorn, which brings me to my next mistake that I think is really easy to make. Is once you go into Avelorn, you need to roll into Avelorn with enough force to take the whole thing. Only occupy them at like level 1, so if they do get attacked, that can actually work to your advantage. They're sending an army that is then going to occupy the settlement, so that army can no longer move. But you've got, remember, multiple factions. You've got Talson, you've got Durthu, and then you've got Durthu's up here, 2 minor factions to deal with in Avelorn. So they're going to have their own armies, sometimes 2 stacks apiece on legendary, sometimes more. And you're going to have to deal with all of that. So when you plan to go into Avelorn, go in there with 2 or 3 stacks, one really awesome weapons team, maybe a marginal army, and then a just trash army, so that you know that you got enough to take over all of the settlements, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 settlements here, plus multiple armies. Occupy them at level 1 or level 2, depending on if you're trying to sell them. But Avelorn is a good thing to hold on to, because it's still is not favorable ground for Bretonnia. So if they do come in here, they have access here or access here, but they still have to deal with those pretty formidable settlements if you got them built all the way up as the Skaven with your warp bombs and your nuclear weapons. So just keep that in mind when you're rolling into Avelorn. Take them at settlement level 1, and then abandon them once you've got the food to push them all the way to 5, because they are exceptionally expensive. And then the last mistake I think that you can make when it comes to Clan Skryre is, because I understand that they're really good with the weapons team stuff, but you still want to make all your confederations. And I think not sending somebody to go look for Queek and Eshin, like turn 5, is where we're talking about sending an agent across here to set up an undercity, and then go on down this way to discover Queek, and then continues down this way over here to get into Eshin territory, so that we can pick up Eshin, at least visibility on them, so we can start our diplomacy. And then from here, it's pretty easy to bounce over from there to this way, and that'll put you eyes on Pestilence. Now, Pestilence used to be the problem. It seems to me like Pestilence is no longer getting eliminated. In fact, they, in all of my campaigns, have been pretty strong powerhouses. So you can not have to worry about Pestilence nearly as much as you did at one point in time. Now the ones that get eliminated very early on are Queek and Eshin, specifically Eshin. And I guess you can say that Tretch is about a 50-50 shot as well, but who really cares about Tretch? The only real benefit that he gives is the is his province, and the special buildings in his province are pretty good. But other than that, he doesn't really add any like major tangible benefit to the term of your campaign. So when it comes to worried about whether he gets eliminated, once you establish a defensive alliance with Queek, which, actually, that brings me up to another point. You do not want to forge a defensive alliance with Queek until he is at war with the following 2 factions: Karaz and the Knights of Caledor. You want that to be fully established before you join a defensive alliance with him, because then you're going to get piled on by those when they do eventually go to war with Queek. And that's not really that big of a deal, because they're kind of farther away from you. You do have all the tools that you need to deal with that, but particularly in the early stages of the campaign, you do not want major superpowers like Karaz and the Knights of Caledor to declare war on you, because then your overall management calculation of your conflicts gets thrown all out of whack. All of the other factions that see you, and they see you at war with a major faction of High Elves, a major faction of Dwarves, and a few other conflicts, are going to be like, oh, the Skaven are weak, we can go ahead and declare war on them. And that's how you get piled on by the Empire. That's how you get piled on by Bretonnia, and then get piled on by the High Elves all at once. And then they've got inroads into all of your territory, because there's a port there, there's a port there, there's a port there, there's a port there, there's a port there. You see what I'm saying? So all of these areas become very vulnerable when you're getting piled on by a whole bunch of different factions, versus if you can manage those by not taking premature alliances, then you're in pretty good shape. Anyway, that's what I got for you on mistakes that can be made with Clan Skryre. If you want to see another one of these, like early game, mid game mistakes videos, then sound off with the faction that you would like to see, and I will do my best to do that. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you in another video here at The Art of Save Scumming.